Welcome to The Art Career, a space breaking barriers by letting you sit in on candid, straightforward conversations with leading art professionals in visual arts, writing, music, theater, and film. I'm your host, Emily McElreath, and I invite you to join me for inspirational conversations with icons of our generation. We dive deep into topics like self-development, career trajectories, mental health, social justice, and the artists that have changed our lives. With each episode, our mission is to empower you, expanding your journey through the arts. Join us for new episodes every Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts. Attention all artists, entrepreneurs, small business owners, side hustlers, and emerging podcasters. As CEO of McElreath Art Advisory and host of the Art Career Podcast, you all know my life's work is advocating for the value of an artist. McElreath Art Advisory is a full-service firm that promotes the work of artists through interdisciplinary collaboration, institutional partnerships, acquisition, and now introducing artist development. With newly available one-on-one career consultations, gain the strategy you need to meet your career goals. Together, we will develop customized action items to move your practice immediately forward. Consultations are available to anyone in the creative industry. Be the first to invest in your breakthrough. Spaces are limited and filled each month on a first-come, first-served basis. Email me at emilymcelreath.co. That's EMILYMCELWREATH.co, and I will send you a link to sign up. I cannot wait to work with you. You deserve to feel safe wherever you go, which is why the Art Career has partnered with Knockout Safety Accessories. Native New Yorker Kate Davis founded Knockout, a minimalist, chic jewelry line with self-defense features that is now expanded to include a women-designed pepper spray and safety alarm, so you can get to where you're going or just simply sleep at night with confidence. My purple pepper spray lays on my nightstand each night, and I take it with me on every single run and hike I do. Head on over to shopknockout.co and use the discount code TheArtCareer to receive 20% off of all accessories and jewelry. Don't wait for obvious reasons. Head on over to shopknockout.co, shopknockout.co, and use the code ARTCareer for 20% off. Be safe, everyone. Dr. Kymberly Pinder is the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Dean of the Yale School of Art. An alumna of Yale's History of Art program, Dr. Pinder is an internationally recognized scholar of race, representation, and public art. She is the author of Painting the Gospel, Black Public Art and Religion in Chicago, and the editor of Racing Art History, Critical Readings in Race and Art History. Dr. Pinder is widely known for her deep commitment to education and its potential to address local and national challenges. In addition to being an eminent scholar and educator, she has extensive experience at institutions of higher education and museums. Dr. Pinder was appointed Yale's first Black woman dean in 2021. Prior to her appointment at Yale, she served as provost and senior vice president, then later acting president of Massachusetts College of Art and Design, MassArt. Before her time in Boston, she was the dean of the University of New Mexico College of Fine Arts for 6 years, director and curator of the University of New Mexico Art Museum, chair of the Department of Art History, Theory, and Criticism, and director of that department's graduate program at the School of the Art Institute in Chicago. Dr. Pinder has also worked in museums and galleries such as the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Art Institute of Chicago. Dr. Pinder received her MA, M.Phil, and Ph.D. from Yale University. Dr. Pinder has approached each of her leadership roles with the view that institutions of higher education must work closely with their home cities to advocate for the importance of arts and culture and to create a reciprocal avenue of access. She has curated exhibitions on urgent contemporary issues and held forums for thoughtful student and community member dialogue. Working with local artists, schools, and governments, she has helped create murals in Chicago, Albuquerque, and this past year in New Haven. Dr. Pinder serves on the board of Association of Independent Colleges of Art and Design, the Photography Organization Center, the Boston Art Commission, Massachusetts State Committee of the National Museum of Women in the Arts, and the Boston Public Art Triennial. Dean Pinder, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This is, we were talking before and you wanted to shorten your bio, and I said, we're not shortening your bio because, as you all just heard, it really is such an honor. My background is in education, so whenever I get to fully embrace education on this podcast, I get really nervous and excited and jump at the idea. So thank you for inviting us to be here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
So Yale, as we all know, has grown and evolved so much in 300 plus years, right? 1832, Yale University Art Gallery opens, the first college art gallery in the Western Hemisphere, which I didn't know. 1869, the first university arts institution opens, the School of Fine Arts. And then what's funny, exactly 100 years later, in 1969, only 55 years ago, the first woman was admitted for the first time
at Yale College.
At Yale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1969. And I think I was doing my research. That was late, but it happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in 2021, the first Black woman dean was appointed at the Yale School of Art. So it's interesting to look at those gaps and to not say wonderful, right? But rather, okay, this is what we're looking at here. I actually wanted to, I'm forgetting the year, but 1874, Edward Boucher, is that how you graduated from Yale, being the first Black man to hold a Ph.D.? That was 1874. Yeah, and so I was just, doing my research and educating myself on everything having to do with you and Yale. And what struck me recently, I've been reading about, are you familiar with Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar? He's considered, it's probably subjective, but to be the favorite Harvard professor of all time. And he studies happiness and the psychology of leadership and positive psychology. And I was listening to a podcast episode where he was speaking, and I did think of you because he was saying, we have this wrong as humans where we think that reaching these goals will make us happy, right? When really it is, and as cliche as this sounds, really, if you think about it, it's not about that. It is about the journey of walking toward the goal. Once you reach it, I think it's like there's a brief period of time where you actually physically, emotionally, psychologically feel joy and happiness, and then we immediately say, okay, I want to do more, or like, what is the next thing I can accomplish? And so I'm listening to this the other day, and I'm thinking of you, and I'm like, maybe she's the only one that this does, because I'm thinking of being appointed as the dean of Yale School of Art. And I am curious, it's such a loaded question, but based on what I just said, what was that experience like for you? Because it was recent. It was still recent. Was it a high? Was it not? What was that?
Well, I didn't expect this question, and so it might be a little bit unexpected, my answer, because it was during COVID. So that definitely dampened how I was responding, and I will say something also very personal. My mother had just died of COVID, and so I literally was interviewing for this job the day after she passed. So that is something that I have to say that really made this like, okay, all right, I have this job. Let me now try and like heal myself a little bit to jump into it. Wasn't really that emotionally on board with all the things that I should have been jumping up and down and all these things. I was happy, absolutely, but there were so many other things going on. I was just leaving and still working as the acting president of MassArt during COVID at that moment. So a lot of that had to still be taken care of, you know? And so I would say that my elation and really feeling incredibly honored to be in this position didn't fully sink in until I came on campus, you know, because I also had to move and all these other things during COVID. So there were so many complications there. I also had a daughter who was in high school in Boston, so I was working on that commuting plan. There were so many other factors that this idea that I've arrived had not fully taken over in my mind. But when I got to campus, and the best part was because of COVID, there were really strict rules here at Yale. Like, for instance, this meeting that we're having right now, we would have had to be in mass. And I thought, I cannot start this job meeting everyone with half their face. So you will see later that there's a beautiful courtyard right behind this office, and that became my office. And being able to sit there and, you know, actually meet with my accounting person on a bench. And that's where the students also, that's their hangout. So I got to spend so much time with them. That was the moment of elation. Absolutely. Because I was like, wow, these students are phenomenal. They are the most present people I've ever met. They're so thoughtful in terms of like where they're going with their work, where they want to go. Because they've gotten into this school and had this opportunity. They're super serious about it. So incredibly diverse in terms of all their experiences that I got to learn sitting back there outside. And that was a situation I actually have never been in these leadership positions, to have that much time with the people I'm serving. And that was, I would go home every day and be like, let me tell you who I met today.
And everyone's so extra present because no one's getting to do that at that time. Absolutely. So it's like that and that.
Yes.
And so, yeah, what a high.
It was a total high. And by like, I'll never forget a conversation I would have, because they'd be out there talking about a lot of things. Like I got to hear about the grief and, you know, know, finding out that a couple of other students had lost family members during COVID, or, you know, they had to have serious visa challenges during the last few years, you know, because of the political situation, all these different things that, you know, what they did to get to sit with me in that courtyard was extraordinary for so many of them. And at one moment, I think it was maybe around November, a couple of them said, "Hey, Dean P," they were like, "It's so great that you've been sitting out here. I mean, wow, why are you doing this? We really appreciate it." And I said to them, "I appreciate you. Like, you don't understand how much I get filled up sitting among you and hearing about you." And I also said to them that because this is the most diverse professional school at Yale, it was something I didn't fully understand until I was asked about it in this situation, that this was one of the first situations for me in a predominantly white institution where I could daily be surrounded by people of color.
Say that again.
This was the first time in my life I've been in predominantly white institutions where I could sit every day and be surrounded by people of color because of those students and some of the staff and faculty. And it was a revelation for me because it had been so normative for me to be one of the only, the only and the lonely, I always say. And to just always be looking like, oh, there's someone. Oh, that person looks like they might be Latino. Oh, in that crowd. But I would sit in this back courtyard and there were people from all over the world that are my students. And it was so, I felt kind of naive about this, that it was so much affecting how I was entering the job, onboarding into it, and also my big homecoming to Yale.
Yeah, that I can't imagine how powerful that must have felt. I interviewed Dominique Clayton. She's a Black gallerist from LA just this week, and she was explaining, to be a Black gallerist, she said the same thing you did. Like, she'd be at an opening like, oh, there's the other one over there, and that hasn't changed for her very much. So it's nice to hear that you've had that experience here. And I'm so sorry to hear about your mother. I did read that she did know you were interviewing for this, and
yes.
she did say that you were going to get the position.
Yes, that's my mom.
So that, and
on her deathbed, she's like, "Oh, you're getting it."
Yeah, I'll start crying, but that's, yeah, your daughter is, your daughter is going to be appointed dean at the Yale School of Art. I don't, it's like mic drop. There's nothing, that's so incredible. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you sat outside. I'm wondering when you didn't do it through the winter.
Well, thanks to
thanks
to climate calamity, I actually could sit out there into December. I did. It was like it was bright and sunny.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Yes, I was out there well after Thanksgiving. I could sit out there. And it really was, it was just so powerful for me to experience that. Because again, let me clarify, when I go to cabinet meetings, I am still one of the only people of color in the cabinet meetings.
Yale.
Yes. And although they're, the outgoing Peter Salovey, our president, has done a lot to bring diversity into his own cabinet since he has been president. So it was this wonderful experience to go in various places on campus and then come back to my school.
Yeah.
My hallways.
I love you guys.
And I would say to them, I still say to them, I love them. I hug them. It's just been really, and as you said, for all of them to be able to have that community after COVID, because some of them were in their second year and they had been in their studios alone.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. Because we were all a little depressed.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I don't even think we realize yet how bad it was. And we realize how bad it was. But so many these poor students that started,
yes,
undergrad, grad, all over. It's just, yes. I can't even imagine.
I know. And this is a little bit of a sidebar. Since you're interested in education, something that, as we all know, campuses are exploding right now. And one of the things that has been pointed out is that the seniors in college right now started in fall 2020.
Whoa.
So this is going to be their memories of their college education was started online, ended probably with, disrupted commencements, when all of their family members are going to be on campus. They're finally crossing that finish line, and there's going to be a whole lot of things going on. So that was something that we were discussing in cabinet recently, is like these poor kids, right? Like this will be the defining moment really for their memories about their undergraduate experience.
Yeah, and it's been uprooted from the very beginning for them.
And we still, as you can read all the articles, we still will not fully understand the ramifications of all of that for, probably a generation.
What's happening now or COVID?
All of it.
All of it, yeah.
All of it. No. Being, from the little kids who started school online to these seniors graduating right now, their entire educational experience has been so disrupted and distorted in many ways. And that's why we're having an endemic problem with attendance that you can read in K through 12, also college.
Of course.
It's like this idea, well, I don't really have to show up, do I? Or I don't feel comfortable showing up, because I was not talking to people for a very long time.
I was the kid even through, I have a master's in art history, and even through graduate school, I'm so proud of myself that I've gotten so comfortable with public speaking and interviewing people because, I was the student that had a hard time even raising her hand to speak ever. I didn't really, and so to what you were just speaking to, it's like, if I had, and we were talking about before how we both have so much energy and have to move around so much. It's like, if I had to learn online, I don't think I would have went to graduate. I don't think I would have been able to, because I really need to be present with people. This is why I came here today, and we're not doing this online. When I don't have to do something on the computer, I don't want to do it, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh, yeah. All these different learning styles that we're, very well aware of. How many people just could not function with that type of very distanced learning, My daughter was in a dance program in high school. So she was dancing. What the
hell did she do?
She was dancing on Zoom.
Where is she now?
She's here with me. She's taking a year off, but, trying to just recover a little bit from what that whole experience was. And for her, like many artists, I wouldn't say necessarily some of our visual artists, some of them like to be alone, but for performing artists, many of them really need to be in person. And for her, she was like being in line in the studio, everyone doing the same thing was what really got me going. And then she was doing it on Zoom. That's just, we could go on and on about this type of thing, but that, really is just related to my experience in many ways. I was very fortunate that I had to be out in the courtyard, because if I'd stayed in my office, like would have been normal, I wouldn't have engaged with all of those students on such a regular basis.
No, it almost forced you to really immerse yourself in student culture and know what was going on.
Yes.
Like you said, you're not going to overhear students talking about their personal lives in your office here, right? But you probably...
and they would pull me in, they would be pulling, and not just about personalized, but like what they thought about art making, like really deep, extensive philosophical discussions they would have over a cigarette outside.
Sure.
About like, I'm taking a break from my studio. Let me actually talk about why I'm here. It was just really, and that's what I mean about the privilege I felt being able to sit with them, and how that moment was when I was elated, when I was thinking, wow, I've got this job now. This is phenomenal.
Right. And you were actually able. Actually, I'm very happy I started with that, because how this has unfolded is very interesting. It's almost like the experience was all the more powerful for you, and you were able to hold on to that joy because of all the trials and tribulations that you had been through.
Yep, absolutely. And just getting to know so many of them, and also I wasn't traveling. Like this job involves a lot of traveling. No traveling in 2021. Very little in 2022. that also enabled me to just be present, to get to know more
Yeah.
of them. I got to go and sit in critiques.
You became rooted before you started movement.
Absolutely.
And what's better than that?
Mm-hmm.
How often do you travel now?
Oh my gosh.
All the time?
All the time, yeah.
That would be hard.
And if it's not international, I go to New York a lot.
Okay.
Because there's so many things. Like, Freeze is next week.
And you're going to all those things.
Yes, and we actually plan events around them.
Okay.
So we have, I think, I'm always living week to week. I think we have at least 2 or 3 of alumni events that are around different exhibitions in New York. So we have quite a few people. Well, I would say I think it's 5 or 6 that are in the Whitney Biennial. Alumni. And so we're doing an event around that, a tour that will be, we do it around the art fair because people are coming in town.
Of course. And
then, I'm sorry, I don't remember the other 2, but, the Brooklyn Museum. The Brooklyn Museum has a show. Alicia Keys and Swizz Beats, their art collection is on view at the Brooklyn Museum, and it also has a number of our alums and one of our faculty members in it. So we're doing a tour of that. That's just a special Yale School of Art tour.
Well, that's going to be awesome.
Yes. And so I do a lot. Those are fun things, but again.
But there's also not fun things.
Yes.
That's for sure. That's not lost on me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So that's so I'd say I include that because I really do jump to New York quite frequently. Sometimes it's like multiple times in 1 week.
Do you like New York?
Oh, of course. And I love that I don't live there.
Yeah. For the past 2 years, COVID really did me in I was living in East Williamsburg, and I was like, I'm going to try to go upstate. I was coming out of like a fucking bad breakup, and I'm going to go upstate for a couple months. And all my friends, it's an art community. It's called SAIC, and it's a big art community.
Wow.
And they were like, well, you're not going to leave. I was like, of course I'm going to leave. I'm not going to stay upstate. Like, I lived in Brooklyn for the past 10 years of my life. Anyway, I'm still there, and my partner lives in Brooklyn. So I do have the best of both worlds. So I hear what you're saying. Yes. I'm spending the majority of time away, and then I come in and do my thing and leave because – yeah, something happened even during COVID, and and maybe it's age too. I don't think I could live there full time again. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is. It sure is.
Yep. Can I just interject one thing?
Yes, please.
Because when you were starting off about I just want to emphasize with your research about the School of Art and how it's been so cutting edge, right? Like in terms of being like this kind of bastion of change and also innovation in many ways, not surprisingly, on the Yale campus. So I always like to remind us that in 2016, Marta Kuzma was the first woman dean at the School of Art. So they hadn't had a woman until 2016. I know. And I think that's significant, in terms of it being so late, even though we were the school that graduated the first woman out of professional schools. That was, I should know the date.
Right, but to have it taken that long to a point.
Yes.
It was so, I drove here from upstate today, and it was awesome. It took me all back roads pretty much from Wasaic to New Haven. And so I stopped in Kent, Connecticut to get coffee, and I'm online with this, soccer mom. She's like, where, chatty Kathy at 7 a.m. I'm like sitting there, haven't had my coffee yet. She's like, headed to work? It's like, yes, I am. I know that's a stretch for you. I was like, yes, I am. She's like, where do you work? I was like, I work for myself. Where are you headed?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I'm actually headed to Yale University. Ooh, what are you doing there? And I said, I'm interviewing the dean of the School of Arts. And she said, oh, you must be so excited to interview him. And I was just like, okay, is my coffee ready? And I was like, no, it's a woman, and that and that even that, was just wow. I know. And yeah, like it's, and this is stating the obvious, but it's just every time we think there's been so much forward movement, it's like 55 years ago was the first time a woman was admitted. I mean, that 55 years is not a long time, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's so significant.
And just little things. I mean, I'll wrap this up here, but I'm going to be speaking to, there are all these things that deans do. Like we do alumni events, we speak to alumni classes that have nothing to do with the School of Art. And so I'm actually going to be doing a Zoom with the School of, the Yale College alumni of 1960.
Whoa.
So I'm doing a tea where they are, invited a dean, me, to talk about. They call it a tea, but now it's on Zoom. I think it originally actually was in person, and people would,
of course, they
would have tea. Yes, but now it's online, and so
Okay.
these are graduates from 1960.
Wow.
And my daughter was so funny. She said, "Do they know who you are?"
Yeah,
because we were talking about in 1960. I'm going to be on a Zoom with all men, because there were no women who graduated from 1960. So in just even that,
you got to screenshot that.
That's what everyone keeps telling me. So just that, again, just reminding us of little things like that. Like I will be speaking to the alumni from 1960, and the reality of that is that they will all be men. And I suspect mostly white men.
And the reality of that is you're probably the last generation that will have that experience.
Yes.
So that's so significant too.
It is.
Because that's not going to happen again.
Yep. And that's how I talk to my children. I have 3.
Oh, you have 3?
Yes, I have 3. And we talk about that. They are often saying like, what you went through, you and Dad is just so different from how they're in college with people, how they're in the workplace. It's just very, very different. But then we also talk about similarities, that certain systemic things are not completely gone.
Of course.
Microaggressions, all those things. And that's what's really interesting generationally, to have that back and forth conversation about what does it mean to be in predominantly white spaces? What does it mean to be in spaces where they're more inclusive? And where are the crossovers generationally of things that still we need to work on,
Yeah. Yes. We're not moving fast enough.
Absolutely.
We're not. And I just end speaking to the younger generations with that. I'm able to be like, okay, maybe this is going to continue down this path of being more inclusive.
We hope.
Yeah,
always. And that's, again, the incredible diversity of the School of Art, the master's students, MFAs, as well as the undergrads, is something that I do not take for granted, and they don't take for granted. And I, just recently wrote a message about understanding that we have come into this space, a lot of it because of that diversity. That's what made me apply for this job. The fact that this is the most diverse professional school at Yale. But we also have to understand that we have to have generosity with people's experiences. So I was writing something about, please, can we not police people's dissent? Because they're international students here. They're even American citizens who feel vulnerable and to who they are and where they are. And so some of them may not want to be on the front lines protesting and being photographed and all those things, but they may do other things like bring food, bring water, write their congressperson. There are all these other ways to show care and to show dissent that's not one way. And that is because we have this amazing, diverse population.
And I think that's a really important, we won't dive into what's happening this week, but that's such an important point to make that I think, some of the people on the front lines are forgetting that if you're not there, there's, to not post on social media, right, that's a choice, right? And there's so many other things that are happening.
Absolutely.
Outside of that. Oftentimes I'm like, to some of my peers that are making certain decisions, I'm like, but are you sending, is there food? Is there volunteer? Like what are you physically doing? If there's anything we can do at this point. But yeah, it's interesting. And it's such I don't know. I mean, this is such a sensitive topic that
Yes,
I don't,
it is.
and I can't imagine being in your position this week. I don't really have anything else to say.
Well, I'm fortunate. All of the things I've just been talking about of this community here at the school has been very, very helpful in all of this. We have very supportive. People are very supportive of each other.
That's great.
And the students and the faculty and the staff, we're just trying to offer support because, as we all know, this is a very emotional time. It's coming on the heels of another emotional time. It's about to enter into an additional emotional time where tensions will be high for, I don't know, the next, 6-7 years?
Yeah.
I don't know. So we've been working a lot on community values, and we have wellness meetings and groups and just a lot of support that you can look up online about how you're managing stress, having spaces for students to just talk about what they're feeling and also try and talk to each other. I mean, these are all things that are really important to provide. And one of the key things that need to be provided by higher education. So now this is, the parallel set of resources that have increased significantly in addition to just providing instruction, that we also have to provide the support for students who are struggling and just inundated with all of this incredibly heavy stuff, how they can successfully continue to learn.
And just in general, mental health awareness during undergraduate and graduate. I mean, that is something all of us in some way, shape, or form, we all have our own experiences with it. But, I remember being like a freshman and sophomore and like not doing well, like I took a year off. There was a reason. It was because I could not deal, right, at some point. And I was not alone in that. And there was not enough support there ever, and so it is nice to hear and just reading about what you've done within communities to support and now students at Yale through. It's so important. It's as important as the educational elements.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the first things that I asked for, so you probably know how higher education goes, or any organization, you put up your budget requests. I want this, this, and this.
Oh, what did you do?
My first one was to have a full-time person that I created the title Director of Sustainable Equity and Inclusion.
Yes.
And that person has been incredibly important, invaluable in terms of another resource for our students to go to. She's the person who's creating the wellness sessions, as well as being another supportive, trained professional in this type of support for our students.
Wonderful.
And also heading up all these different programs. And also the professional development aspects, which, believe it or not, does help with the mental health, right? Because
of course.
So many of our students are spending a lot of time, of course, honing their skills as artists and their practices, but they have a lot of anxiety about what happens when I graduate.
Well, because that's just started to become, professional practices. And that's kind of why I started this podcast in the first place. And it's grown from that, but like no one knows what they're doing after they graduate.
And that is stressful.
Yeah.
So I always try to say this is all tied in, to we have, my fundraising goals. One of them is to have even more increased mental health support, but also to create another initiative is to make sure that there is more professional development training. It's so funny because some of our faculty are like, professional development sounds so corporate. How about just practical skills?
Yeah, seriously.
And I was like, okay, practical development. How about good sense? How about
this is what you do?
I was like, whatever you want to call it, it's supportive. It's to arm them with other skills that we could call, in quotation, soft skills. I will call them hard as nail skills, because those types of skills actually armor the students with being able to weather the very capricious environment of the art world. And so we have grant writing workshops, how to set up your studio.
Oh my gosh, I would love to be involved in this initiative in whatever way I can. I mean,
Oh
this
my
is
gosh,
what I
it's
do.
great.
I speak with artists and students about these things. It's so important.
It is. It is.
You know, and you know it's so important because when you are sharing experience or listening to a student and help guide them, it's like they're like, "Oh my God,
Yes.
okay, thank you so much." And I'm like, "All right, I didn't give you that much, but it's the fact that there's so little of that before like 10 years ago, really,
Yes.
and there was a little 10 years ago. Now, I always say too, with artists and all the other creative fields, there's like management or agents or business
Yes.
artists don't. So it's like, here you go, like to the wolves.
Yes. Good luck to you.
Figure it out.
Yes.
Hopefully you're in the 1 percentile. The Art Career is thrilled to announce its partnership with Glimpse. Glimpse Guides are a collection of luxury guidebooks with an outstanding social mission we are proud to support. Featuring the best of hotels, restaurants, activities, and itineraries for each featured city, Glimpse Guides also include recommendations and travel tips by a curated selection of tastemakers. The most exciting part of Glimpse Guides is 100% of their profits go to Give a Glimpse, which provides funding for educational travel scholarships for underserved students. What is better than that? Glimpse believe that travel is the most important form of education, and it is their mission to send as many deserving students abroad as possible. Glimpse also offers luxury trip design services with VIP perks like early check-in, room upgrades, restaurant and spa credits, welcome gifts, and more. Glimpse has quickly become our one and only travel planner. Go check them out at glimpseguides.com and tell founder Jordan Rhodes that the Art Career Podcast sent you. As someone extremely passionate about mental health, seeing a therapist is essential to my quality of life. We'd like to take this moment to announce how thrilled we are to partner with the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp. If you think you might be feeling anxious, depressed, or even just overwhelmed, being alone with your thoughts can be an isolating feeling. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't even have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. You just fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you get matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. It's that easy. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. And just for the Art Career Podcast listeners, we will offer 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/TAC. That's better, BETTER, help, HELP.com/TAC. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring the Art Career Podcast. So I'd like to really quickly bring it back to the students here. We all know that Yale is churning out some of the deepest talent in the world, really, as artists. And I just want to talk about that for a second, because you alluded to something earlier on in the conversation where you were saying they're all just really thankful to be here. And I don't think you find that everywhere, especially with higher education. And I don't know. It's kind of an open dialogue with that. What has that experience been like for you? And are you just as amazed as us all seeing some of this talent that comes out of this program?
Yeah, I think that that's all wrapped in also with the anxiety and the high stakes that they all are feeling when they get in here. It's it's a 3 to 5% acceptance rate, depending on which program you're in. We get roughly 900 to 1,000 applications
for the graduate School of Art.
Yes.
3 to 5%.
Yes. And they all know that. Some of them have applied multiple times. And that is not unusual. And they finally get in. It's really, they feel like, oh my gosh, I've won the lottery. Oh no, well, there is going to be some debt there. We'll talk about that later, about that's another source of the anxiety. And then they see so many, not a number of our grads who make, the big splash.
Sure.
But I always like to remind people that I will be in commencement in a month. 60 MFAs will walk. Every year it's 60. So you can think about all the superstars, but let's just do the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Let's just do the numbers. 60 each year do not end up selling their work for $2 million. No, not at all. And the school is 155 years old. So we have a lot of alumni. A lot of people have come through the program. And I always say, every single one of them went through that 3 to 5% acceptance rate. So they all came in incredibly talented. They all went through this education. And then you have to parse out, so what happened? Why? And that there's so many answers to that. Not all of them want that.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Yes. And then there's a percentage that actually want that.
Yes.
Which I don't know.
Yes. And then some of them pursue it. Some of them it's successful. Some of them it isn't. But all of that is like spinning in the heads of the 60 that walk onto campus in August to start, right? And they're thinking, is this what I'm looking for? Do I impress my professors? Do I take enough time? It's just so much that is on them in many ways. And that is, they're grateful because it's so hard to get into this program. But they also start off and also they're high energy people. Like you can imagine, that's one of the things I say at orientation. Yeah. I was like, hey, I think we have some people that are pretty driven here. Let me guess.
A little bit.
So I say let me just tell you, also enjoy being on this campus.
Oh, I know. What's better?
Yes, please talk to your peers. Please go to a lecture in the divinity school or in anthropology. God. You are surrounded by brilliant people, not just your professors, but the person next to you in your studio. Because remember, you all got in here the same way, and it was hard. So make sure that you talk to people. The networks that you get out of those 2 years.
Which is everything.
Everything. And also how you're learning from people who are all in the same mindset of being here in the MFA program. So these are the things I always say to them at orientation. I know you think you've made it. You're going to spend 15 hours in your studio every day. And I say, you made it. Do not spend 15 hours in your studio every day.
Well, especially collaboration now is everything.
Yes. And that's what I mean about the community. I think there's a lot of support in this community of 60 MFAs. I don't want to completely forget the undergraduates because we have had an explosion of our undergraduate major, and they are also engaged with our MFAs. So it is really a community here because they teach them in many ways. And a number of our faculty teach both undergrads and grads. So there is this real community of the School of Art being both the undergraduate program and the graduate program.
Do you save a percentage of applicants from undergrad?
For admissions? No.
Yeah,
no.
Clean slate.
Clean slate. We actually encourage many of them to take some time off before they apply, to go do some other things.
Time off is,
Yes.
More people need to talk about that.
And let me just tell you something that these are stats that I always get. I have some here in front of me, but I was blown away when I got the stats of our average age of our MFA is 29. 29 years old. That's a lot of time off for some of them.
Yeah.
That means that's the average. It means we have some people who are over 30, maybe 40.
I wish I could go back to school right now.
Yes.
You know how much more I would learn?
Mm-hmm. And I even talked to someone recently, one of our grads, who had applied really soon after. I was just talking to her in the courtyard.
Oh, there you go.
And she didn't get in. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Thank goodness I didn't get in.
Right.
I would have wasted so much time here." She said that I was able to go and do all these other things. She even was a curator for a while.
Right.
She was working on a whole nother type of practice. And she's like, "I have gotten so much out of this because I got in at this moment." You know?
To know also, which you and I do, the level of art appreciation that you have up until graduate school graduation, it's just different. And we're all jaded a little bit, and especially if you're one of those artists that want to commercialize your artwork or want to, run into the lion's den with everyone. It's like you do lose the energy of graduate community,
Mm-hmm.
which is everything.
Yep. And that's also what I tell them why they need to get out of their studios, because once they graduate, for the rest of their lives, they'll be pursuing residencies.
Yeah.
They'll be trying to get the sense of an artist community back for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
So don't think it's just being in your studio. It's really engaging with all of these people. And I also tell them, they're like, how do we get so many amazing artists to come and be visiting critics? Because that's really what is so important about art schools.
Yes.
Is that, your core faculty are one group that are always here, but having practicing artists come into people's studios. And I tell them that when I talk to them, that they want to come because this is also re-engaging with an artistic community. They love being in people's studios. And they have said to me oh my God, I just saw this one student's work. I can't wait to get back to my studio. I'm so inspired.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
I don't doubt that for a second.
Because they're still trying to get that, they're always trying to get that feeling. Just working in your studio by yourself is not always what maybe people think that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. But then you'll find out, I need to get that residency. Oh, maybe I will go and teach a little bit, just to be in that environment with these amazing students.
Absolutely.
And to see all the great work that they're doing. Yeah.
I even, every time if I speak at a campus or visit a campus or interview someone like you, the amount of energy I gain from just being on campus and being around it is I just nerd out because I'm like, do I want to get a PhD?
I know. You totally want to go back. I know. You always want to go back.
And then I'm like, no, you're not going to do that probably. But then I'm like, but why not? We could go on and on. If there is anything you would particularly like to share or bring up.
Well, this relates to, we bring in 60 students a year in the MFA program. And one of the real goals for me in terms of fundraising has been what I have dubbed the ethical MFA. And that is because, as I just mentioned, all 60 go through the same admissions process.
Okay.
And a number of them do not continue to do their art practice full time because they can't afford to. And as we all know, especially you and your program and your listeners and participants, is that, artists don't make a lot of money when they leave. They don't have a lot of job security. And I feel that I've dubbed it ethical because I feel it's unethical that we invest so many resources in these 3% for applicants that come in. Right. They, as you saw, 29 is the average. So that means that a number of them are taking a hiatus from a job or something, right? So they are, right, they're not coming. They're not coming right out. No. I mean, we literally have one or two who are directly coming from undergrad. So few. So they are also taking a huge chance by pausing parts of their lives for 2 full years. And so I feel that it is, it's basically unethical that all of our part, their part, investing in this education, that they leave and cannot continue to be artists in the capacity that they have built by being in this amazing program for 2 years. And so that is and that was when I was applying for this job, the search firm actually told me, like, making the school debt-free or tuition-free is going to be the next dean's task. And I was like, oh, I'm in.
Great.
I'm in. Like, it's on.
So what is this called? The ethical?
I call it the ethical MFA, and that is
a movement? Like, what is it exactly?
It is being able to have an endowment that is large enough that every single MFA that comes in with demonstrable need for financial aid, and we have 76% of them get some kind of financial aid, that they will have everything covered, their tuition and 2 years of living expenses. So how
is it looking?
Well, we have about $29.5 million to go, but we're almost there. Because this was something that I came in, 3 years ago, and I was like, oh, I'm doing this. And so we've been working on it. I actually had to have my own development officer. The school did not have their own full-time one. That was the other.
Really?
That is correct. So I had to ask for that.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So but great. I asked for that. I got that. We actually just got another staff member to support her. And we're cooking with gas. I have a task force that I established a year ago that is specifically to get to this goal. And I think we're going to make it. But the thing is that, the Geffen School, they're tuition free. That had actually happened, the Geffen School of Drama. That's what I'm talking about.
Recently that happened.
That happened the month that I was hired. So that's another reason why it was kind of on everyone's mind. Who's next? The School of Art. Because the School of Music here is tuition free.
I didn't know that.
And that has been that way for a while. Yeah.
It's one of these things, back to what we were talking about, like 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, we're going to look back and be like, how unethical it was.
Yes.
Right? Because who can do it's like close to impossible.
Yes. And again, to be one of the top art schools and to not consider this to be a priority.
Right, because of course you're going to have, sorry to interrupt,
No,
of course you're going to have students that are like, I got to make this happen, no matter what. It's Yale.
What. That's right.
So that's even more unethical, right? It's Yale. Of course I can be broke. Like, of course. I don't have to go to the doctor this year.
That's right. That is exactly it. Because I've gotten this opportunity. As I told you, some people apply multiple times. Imagine when you finally get in and you don't get a full package, you're probably like, I just got to go. I just got to go.
Yes.
And then we'll work it out later. How many times do all of us say that? We'll just work it out later.
Yeah.
So my goal is to make sure that they don't work it out later, that they come in and they know you're covered. We got you covered. And we've been trying to do more and more of little incremental things, like, for instance, giving them, every single one of them, some kind of funding for their thesis. So that's another thing.
Right.
Why, if you can't afford all the materials for your final capstone show,
like,
what's that about? 2 years, and then you have to do your sculptures in cardboard.
Yeah, don't do it in stone. Do it in cardboard.
Yes, or because you just can't afford it. So that's actually something that we have. That was one of our goals. We've reached that. We got an endowment that has given this year everyone at least $500 towards their thesis, every single student. I mean, I hope that it'll grow and it'll be 1,000 just to help them. So these are like little baby steps within this. That's part of the professional training. Like, again, I'm thinking so much about when they leave. Not so much about, I mean, we got it covered while they're here.
Of course.
Amazing curriculum, amazing faculty, great facilities. How about when they leave?
I know.
You know, that's what I care the most about.
That's what I care the most about, too.
About, okay, bye. But can we give them so many skills, so much support in creating post-graduation, we call them post-MFA opportunities, is another big goal. That was started before I came on. Really an initiative by Anoka Fruke, who is my associate dean. She's been here for a while. She was running painting for a long time. And we have been building those as well. And these are kind of, I call them launching, you know, like a little bit, not an extra year in the MFA program, but actually helping them get into the world. So these are residencies, travel grants, different ways for them to continue to do a little bit more.
It's of the utmost importance, and to just arm them with resources and people. You know, I just sat. I don't know if you know, Jane South started Pratt Forward.
Yes, and they came and did our Mickalene, and Jane actually did one of our professional development.
So this is like
workshops.
We're all. I was a core mentor. It was me, Mickalene, Jane, Derek. And Jose. And so we did this in the World Trade Center a couple of months ago. But these are the conversations. Like these are the conversations we're having. And it's exciting because people like Jane, people like Mickalene, people like me, people like you, people, you know, this is of the utmost importance. And to arm these graduates and these students with, like I said, with people that have their back, because more and more professionals really want to help, you know?
They really do.
Like I believe that Mickalene on a daily basis is emailing with people that she doesn't even know that well, because she's just trying to be like, don't sign that contract or blah, 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 you know, whatever it is. But it's arming them with so many different resources. And one of those with mentorship, which I think is like the most important thing.
Yes. That's what I love about Mickalene and Derek and those people there. You know, I talk about leveraging your influence and your power, right? And your privilege.
Yes.
You know, so I feel that Mickalene is one of our graduates. She's actually on our task force. She's one of our alumni members. This idea of, I got in, I got it. Yep. Now, how do I absolutely pull up other people behind me, you know? And that's what I feel like as a dean, and I have in all these leadership positions, I call leveraging my privilege of being at the table, being able to be the person to say, hey, guess what? Maybe people might feel this way. You know, you're not thinking about people who are not at this table. And so that is something that I so respect from our alums like Mickalene, who understand that power and that obligation to use your forum. And that's another thing with why I also took this job, was when they said, oh, you're going to try and make it debt-free. I was like, oh, yes, because I'd been in state institutions.
Right.
And I was really committed to that. And so it was a little bit difficult, believe it or not, to consider going back into privates because of so much work that I had enjoyed doing and saw how it was so important in the state universities.
Yeah.
And that also had to do with working in communities too. And then so I was like, oh, great. I want to make it free. I love it. I'm going to do that. And so I also said, wow, if I make the Yale School of Art debt-free, then it will push other art schools to do it.
Yes.
Because it's the Yale School of Art. You know, like that idea of influence.
I love this. This is going to be I'm going to be so annoying. Leveraging privilege, leveraging your privilege. And I almost think, you know, I'm too judgmental sometimes, but, you know, it's hard to not, you know, have a hard time with people who don't leverage their privilege. You know, I've been so privileged in my life, and it's just my responsibility. Like, I have to give that, you know, it's ethical.
Yes. And that's what made me come back. I mean, I have to tell you, I didn't have the best experience when I was a graduate student here in the early 90s. But this idea of, oh, you're going to come back and make this huge systemic institutional change. And I was like, yes, I'm going to come back and do something that when I leave, it's transformed.
How do you even wrap your brain around the fact that you're doing something like that?
Well, that's why I travel a lot. I have to travel to do it, so I'm just always on it. That's why we have this beautiful little document here, and I have a task force, and being able to have a forum like this to talk about it. And I'm on committees with other presidents, other leaders of art schools, and they even have said to me, like, Kim, why are you doing this to us? I know so many of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because I have to.
Because you have to.
Because I have to. If we really care about art making, and we are some of the only people that do in our society, are those people in art schools, because we're not in Europe where it's a given that the government supports artists. We're in a place where we can't just turn them out into this hostile environment of the U.S. art market, all these things. So I just feel that's why it became the ethical MFA for me.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Thank you.
This has been a real, I always say treat, and I feel like such a nerd, but it is how I feel. And it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for all you do.
Oh, well, thank you for giving me this time. I know we probably would.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Art Career. If you get value from this podcast, please consider helping me make more of these episodes by becoming an Art Career Premium member at theartcareer.supercast.com. That's theartcareer.supercast, supercast.com. And please don't forget to rate and review. Every rating counts. Thanks so much.